Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking about this ASUS ROG Strix Z790-F gaming Wi-Fi version 2. Right, this is a great build and an awesome motherboard, especially for overclocking. This features a chipset of Z790 chipset, and currently what I have installed here is the Intel 12700K CPU, and what we have in the RAM is I am lucky to actually got and found the 6400 megahertz DDR5 of this G.Skill, which is a very good kit. All right, pretty big room for overclocking. So here we can discuss two things. As you can see on the screen right now, I am currently AI optimized, meaning I have actually activated this AIC or enabled this artificial intelligence overclock. Right? I'll tell you more about later. So currently we are on an optimized um, the default by AI. Alright, on the screen that I'm showing you right now. But actually, when you got this new motherboard, by default, it's actually going to be on a normal state, as you can see here. And pretty much, as you can notice, my XMP is actually disabled. This is also because of this AIOC that it did it for us or for me. Alright. So as you can see here, my version of the BIOS as of today is as I speak right now, it's actually at version 1703. So this is the most recent and updated BIOS as of December 1, 2024. Alright. As you can see here, temperatures and voltage is actually quite a bit normal, slight pumped up a bit. I'll show you in a bit. And by default, the speed clocks of an Intel 12700K CPU is actually running like 4700 megahertz, but since I am currently AI optimized, my speed is now at 5100 megahertz. And memory, as I said, pretty much bandwidth. I have a 32 gigabyte, which is 16 by 2 as a dual channel of DDR5 6400 megahertz, which I actually got in here is a 32 CL or cache latency uh, speed. Alright, you can see here are my installed hard drives, the SSDs as well, and VMEs, which is by the way this Samsung SSD 990 Pro is super fast, very good. Alright, see, all fans are running. Right. So now we go to advanced mode. Right, so we can see more of the settings. Alright, so I'm just want to share with you guys what I've done with my 12700K here. So if you have similar specs, uh, it's going to be good for you. I mean, it's up to you to follow, but yeah, I would rather suggest this if you are planning to do an overclock. This is the safe overclock, I should say. Okay, and it's really good for this ROG Strix, it's ASUS Z790-F gaming Wi-Fi version 2, which has 16 plus 1 plus 2 power stages, which is very good from its VRM, right? Okay, so as you can see here, since I'm actually overclocked right now, the target CPU performance for my 12700 is ranked up from 4700 to 5300 megahertz, which running current frequency right now is at 51 megahertz. idle temperature is at 35 degrees centigrade. By the way, I'm actually not using an all-in-one cooler, just the water cooler. I am using still my Noctua uh, NHD12, sorry, NHD15. It's a dual tower air cooler, which I love. And I've tried and tested this as well in the that Noctua NHD15, still has this, what it takes to still cool the CPU down. All right. So settings, what I have, performance preferences, I just put it as ASUS Advanced OC profile, since our target is actually to overclock this using artificial intelligence, as what the feature is for this motherboard. AI overclock tuner, it went to manual, but this is the one that you saw earlier in the advanced mode that's actually on manual, because it tweaked uh, some of the base clocks and some of these timings as well. So I just let it do that, and it actually pretty much given me a good frequency. During games, I should say it never gave me a problem, especially with my good old cooler, air cooler, which is the Noctua NHD15. Alright, so lock frequency keeps it at 100. Adaptive boost technology, I just keep it enabled. Since we are overclocking, it's always safe, to have this activated or enabled at 90, to keep it at 90 degrees centigrade. Well, so far during my benchmarks, which I will do another video of it so that you can see how the CPU, the overclocked CPU, actually performs, as it heats up. But it did not really exceed 90 degrees because of these setting. I'm really, I'm really a fan of this feature that ASUS actually has. It really, keeps the temperature um, at below 90 or even 90, and then my Noctua, paired with it, keeps the processor cool. All right. So this is a really good feature. It's a true feature that ASUS actually is doing well. All right. SID behavior, roll auto, DRAM frequency, put to auto, and yep, we're getting our maximum speed, which maximum rated speed at 6400 megahertz from my DDR5 from G.Skill. All right. So we click here AI optimize. We put heavy AVX here because we are overclocking. As you can see here, there's a use here down. It says select normal for typical use cases, but select heavy AVX for extreme loads such as Prime 95 AVX. If anyone tried this, this is a very, very demanding benchmark type of software. But yeah, this is actually good to enable it as a provision, so it will handle heavy games, heavy triple A games. Which is, by the way, in my system right now. I just placed my good old trusty MSI GeForce Gaming X Trio RTX 3080. Yeah, it's still good based on the current games that um, I use or I play. EVX controls. See, they're all at 52, 53. This is, by the way, automatically. These core figures are actually automatically selected by the AI. AVX2 enabled. DRAM timing. This is again the AI is doing, but it actually keeps the cache latency to 32 RAS and pre-timing here. Command rate, I just put it auto. There you go. Just showing you how all things are actually here. All auto. Alright. The VRM, of course, I have it enabled just to make sure that temperatures are at normal stages when during startup. Voltage input calibration, put on auto. Here, CPU load line calibration. Of course, since we are target is to overclock, so I always put it here at level 4 as recommended by ASUS since we're using the motherboard. Right. This feature, by the way, has been here for I believe since the Z790-300 series or so. Current capability is auto. Alright. Auto. We go back to the voltage caps. I just put everything on auto to let the AI do its thing. Oh, by the way, if you can see on the lower right here, there are prediction that the ASUS or the AI actually is doing. We predicted that my cooler is at 156 points, so it carried it all the way to all of its settings, depending on how it's actually how your cooler range or resulted during its actual test of the AI. So, by the way, this is, as I mentioned earlier, this is the guide. I mean, you can enable this, but you have to be reminded of all these things that has to be here because to protect your system, you should really have a really good cooler and a good power supply. Currently, since I have a 12700 K from Intel processor, I am using an 850 watts ROG Strix Gold to match it and to match also my and also to power my GPU at the same time, which is the MSI RTX 3080. Alright. So here, velocity boost. Just put everything in auto. Here you can see the current running offsets. They're all auto. Tweaker's Paradise. I don't really change anything here, so this is pretty much optimized. Well, LOC mode, of course, this is auto. Under volt protection, I have it enabled this time because I'm using the AI overclock. Alright, and then again, as I mentioned earlier, make sure that you have a very good power supply or PSU and a good cooler. I mean, to back up all of these settings if you plan to overclock. I mean, I have nothing against AIOs, but it's just a preference for me to use the air cooled type. Alright, everything's auto. AI features, so there, it ranked it. As you can see here, the frequency, as I mentioned earlier, is from just 4 to 700. It boosted up to 5000, and its target is actually up to the 5300 megahertz. So you can see very safe timings here and voltages. With this new motherboard, you can see the uptime, that from the time that I actually bought and installed or upgraded. Actually, I was from I was using a Z690 D4 motherboard from Tough before I upgraded to this ROG Strix Z790-F gaming Wi-Fi version 2. You know, there are two versions of this, which is I really like this upgrade of them to a new version. Very hard to find, but maybe in your country you'll be lucky to have more of these supplies. Okay, package temperature, I just put it on auto. I put keep training here, you know, because um, sometimes it depends on your temperature in the room, and sometimes it also depends on how dirty your coolers are already, you know, as in time when you use it. So it's I recommend to put the cooler efficiency at keep training. So every time you power up your computer, your PC, it will still, you know, train it, so it will always be at the current state of your cooling efficiency. So it will give so that the CPU that's already pre-programmed by the artificial intelligence will still, you know, be at its optimum or optimal settings, and to be kept cool by your cooler. All right. Here we don't really recalibrate cooler. I recommend to recalibrate cooler if you repasted it. You repasted your thermal paste, or you changed a fan or fans of your CPU cooler, or if you change to a new cooler, right? If you upgraded to a new cooler, or even change for an RMA or things like that. So every time you you make changes or you modify your cooler, I suggest to do this recalibration. The evaluation algorithm, I keep it at normal. Optimism scale, I always put it as 100. You know, because it keeps training it anyway. So we keep it at the max. All right. Ring down bin. These are other features for the processor, which I keep auto. Actual VRM core, I just put it on auto to be safe. Since it's AI who's actually doing it, I want AI to have full control on this overclocking stage. I want it fully automated. Alright. Advanced memory. By the way, you can do your own. You can play with these voltages, you know, things, but you just have to be very careful. You have to do much research of it, or as an advanced user. But I don't really suggest to tweak all of these voltages, especially if if you don't have much research or experience when it comes to overclocking, you know, processor, just to be safe for everyone. You might as well put things on auto, and then take note of these actual values here. All right, you jot it down, screenshot, take note of it, and then after this, if you still want to do your own optimization, then use these values, you know, do a plus or minus 1% one up down, or 0.5% one up down each time you want to manually, you know, configure your voltages and settings, just to be safe, you know, and not to overclock it, you know, and not to overly reduce some of those voltages to really drop it down, because it can also have like a big effect of your processor and its stability of your system. Right. And hardware itself, you know, should be protected as well. I mean, these are investments. You know, CPU is not that cheap. Motherboards, especially this one, is also not that cheap at all. So be very careful about it. All right. Platform miscellaneous configuration. So I'm showing you all the settings that I've done here. All right. And CPU configuration. There you go. Enabled. The VMX, of course, we'll just have to enable this. There you go. Because this is actually good, especially for the Vanderpool technology feature of some antivirus. Uh, Active performance, hyper-threading, of course, you have to enable it. Otherwise, you will not see, other threads. You will not use the full threads of your CPU. 2.4. Just enable everything. Total memory encryption. It has always been enabled. Legacy game. I just put it on disabled because I normally just use current games. CPU power manage control mostly on auto, and of course speed steps are enabled. Speed shift technology is good to enable. Turbo boost max, of course. Turbo boost max technology should be enabled as well to support full overclocking of your CPU. Alright. System agent configuration. So these are all these memory configuration. I always do that so that it will do that while it's booting up. Every time it boots up. So primary display is my RTX 3080, which is actually a PEG slot. So I just disabled the iGPU for my processor, to keep the processor focus on uh, just the discrete GPU processing and not on its built-in UHD uh, video. Alright. VMD. Just put those settings. PCI Express. So I have a link here. Actually, you can put it on auto if you're not sure what kind of generation you have for your SSD. This is SSD. This is actually the one that's under your CPU. This is the one that's directly linked to your CPU. So put this as a Gen 4. I'm using a 990 Pro Samsung here, 1 terabyte as my boot drive. For here, since I know that my MSI RTX 3080 is a Gen 4, so I just put Gen 4. But since uh, if you don't know, if you're not sure what kind of generation your GPU is, then just put it to auto. But you do have, if you already have a Gen 5, uh, um, GPU, then well and good. I believe this is very, very, very much better than the current one, and best for you to put a Gen 5 also ready. I mean, from the 1200 up to the 1400, it's best for you to use this up as soon as Gen 5 GPU is also available in your country, right? PCH Express, PCI configuration. So you can see here some, I just put it here, so some are not present, so there are still things that I can put, but I have other things here for the that I've installed, like SSDs, or the M.2 that I have one Kingston here, and there's another Samsung here, 980. Okay. Storage controls enabled. These are the SATA that I have. hard drives, put all my files in. PTT, of course, you have to enable. I have to enable at least on my end, you know, to have this SKUs be managed correctly. Thermal configuration, as you can see here, I actually did not activate the Intel Dynamic Tuning technology. I just leave it to the AI, and at the same time I'm going to show you later as well how I configured uh, my curve, my fan curve to deal with the heat that is expected from an overclock system. Alright. Thunderbolt, if you have, you can have it today, enabled. You can have the support enabled as well. Currently, I don't have a Thunderbolt, so I just put the support to disabled. Security, of course, this is a Windows 11 requirement, so by default these are actually enabled. Disable block SID. Usually for other storage configurations you can enable this as well, but currently I don't have that hardware. USB4 add-on cards, I just put it to disabled since I don't have those add-ons currently, but if you do have, yeah, please, you have to enable it. Password protection, of course, I have to enable that. 4G decoding, for current GPUs, yes, please enable those. This one I don't really use this, so I just put it on disabled. USB configuration here, all enabled as a legacy, and the handoff as well. Single port control, all enabled. Network stock currently disabled by default. NVMe configuration, so these are my SSDs. Normally they are at by default configurations already. This is my Kingston and the other SSD 980 as a backup, right? So here showing the hard drive and other hard drive. APM, restore power loss. Of course, to me, I always have to put it on power off, so that for certain fluctuations, it's always best to sense it to off and just manually turn it back on. But on my end, since I have a UPS, which is actually very good, especially when you're upgrading or updating your BIOS, UPS is really the one to go to. I really recommend that you have a UPS, because UPSs normally functions also as an EVR, and at the same time as battery backup, so you can uh, update your BIOS without worrying on breaking your board and stuff like that, especially if you're in a country where there are frequent fluctuations in power, and sometimes also in situations like there are storms and things like that. It's chances are power can be cut off, and frequencies can be fluctuating, and also voltage can also get into that fluctuations. So since computers are very sensitive to power, I always suggest to and I highly recommend for you to have UPS that is of course higher than your PSU power. It's like a rule of thumb as well. For the rated UPS, sometimes it's like uh, for the full power of your CPU, PSU, because PSUs are actually rated power. So when they put like an 850 watts there, it's really an 850 watts. You know, the depending on your PSU sometimes, but as premium PSUs, especially the gold ones, and all of those rated PSUs from reputable brands, they usually have the true rating. So if you have that, for example, what I'm using right now is an 850 watt PSU and PSU Gold, and I actually have an AVR that's actually rated 1500 watts. To me, rule of thumb is at least 80% of those of that rating should be the rating of your power supply of your PSU. So it still have some power for your peripherals, from your gaming accessories, your driving wheel if you race, your monitor, if you have big monitors too, it can eat up power as well. So if it's all connected into one USB, you might as well have that higher capacity. So the higher the better, but you have to base it from what PSU you have. So at least 20% or 25% more higher than your actual rating, or 50%, for future upgrading, to future proof your system and power supply. It's always best for you to have that power supply secured. All right. So moving on, I put the ERP ready to always enable to S4 and S5. So it's getting the system, when it's enabled, so all PME options will be uh, will be switched off. All right. But also the RGBs and stuff. If you can see sometimes when you newly installed, or you installed, or your hardware, when you boot it up, first time boot up, and then program the computer and then shut it down, you can still see that some lights are still on. Some LEDs are still on even though you shut it down already. Um, while your AVR or UPS is actually on, the uh, the motherboard is actually, I mean, the PSU is still giving supply to your motherboard around that time. So it's up to you. How do you want it? To me, I just want a full shutdown, so I enable S4 and S5 here to completely turn off the power, any power that's actually going to the board. It keeps your power consumption low. I mean, manageable, and it actually gives your motherboard some longevity, and um, including your LEDs. Onboard devices, so these are all X16. Right. Audio LAN controller, enable it here. You can actually disable it if you want. The Wi-Fi controller, you can disable it if you don't use it. But most of us actually use Wi-Fi, um, but for, of course, more speedy connections, we use our LAN. Alright. So these are some LED lighting controls, all on. Dynamic lighting, I have actually disabled it. Allows users to put RGB devices through Windows settings, right? So this one is actually limited to Windows 11. So I just put the aura only, not to complicate things, but you can enable this if you want to. To config configuration, I mean M.2 configuration, put it to auto, because you can actually turn it to others, like SATA mode, PCIe mode, right, depending on what hard drive you have. GNA, I don't use it, so I just disable it. This one I do not do on RST, or rapid state storage, so just that one is not enabled. monitor, temperature monitoring. Currently, I am at an idle stage. Not really idle, but we're on the BIOS. We're not running on any apps right now. CPU is in a very good state. My current room temperature right now is at around 29, 29 degrees centigrade. Right. So you have a reference. CPU package 42, motherboard temperature is 33, VRM, chipset temperature, sensor, which I like. This is another feature that I like in this motherboard. I'm not sure from the previous one, maybe a DDR5 ROG Strix and others, but coming from my tough, very reliable also motherboard, I actually don't. I can't see this temperature. But right now you can. But obviously, if you can see here, there are differences in temperature. Um, because the dim B2 is actually nearer. This slot is actually nearer to the exhaust. I mean, to the blower intake of the CPU. The front face, the front blower fans. This one is actually near that, and the dim A2. We are using a dual channel. That's why it's here. It skipped one slot. It's actually like 2 degrees higher here because this is at the back, of this DDR5 here, or this DIM, and it's actually being covered. The DIM A2 is actually being covered by this or blocked by it, um, and this one is near the CPU as well, so it can um, somehow get the heat from the processor as well. But not to worry, because if you have a good ventilation in your computer, you have your intake, good exhaust. I mean, you should be covered by this. And DIMMs are usually have their own heat sinks as well, especially the gaming ones. Alright. So fan speed. So this is actually based on my current curve or fan curve that I use. So you can see here, I have a 30, 60, 80, and yeah, 30, 60, 80 rule, you know, in fan curve. 30 at 30 degrees centigrade at 30% fan. Um, 50 is at 50% fan, 50 degrees centigrade ratio. Um, 80 is where I get to 100%. 80 degrees centigrade is where I put 100%, so it will not go high up to the 90 to keep it to keep the CPU support, to support the CPU, as what we have said earlier, that it's actually keeping it cool to 90 degrees centigrade. Voltage monitor, so everything's normal. Q fan control. To me, if it's a first time in build, or if you again modify or change your fans, even if you actually just clean your fan and then put it back, I suggest to do your Q fan tuning. Currently, I put everything on PWM mode. You can put it on auto, but to me it's it skips time for the CPU to boot up. If you put everything here and not on auto. Yeah. Chassis fan. We're all I put everything on PWM mode since my fans are all PWM mode. My Noctua fans are all PWM mode. Alright. even my AIO pump. I actually use this since I'm not using an AIO. I use this slot to plug my GPU fan support, and I also put this as a PWM since it's also a 4-pin fans. Four those are four two two fans, right? 4-pin two fans, right? Chassis intrusion. I'm not sure who's still um, using this, but yeah, you can keep it disabled. It'll be fine. Maybe in offices, and some areas where you cannot block your CPU or secure your CPU hardware. LED switches, I always keep this on, but you can actually use Aura to enable your lights to function, your LED lights as well, to function as this. Alright. Boot, of course, the CSM. I always put it on disabled. This is a Windows 11 default secure boot. Always put it under UEFI, and it's always put on standard. Right? Boot configuration, so it's up to you. I always disable the fast boot since to me, fast boot can only be of much use if you're using a laptop rather than a desktop, because laptops you have your battery always connected to your board anyway. Right. Boot logo, I disable this so that you can actually see the run scripts of your BIOS. Some find it geeky. To me, it's actually it's satisfying to see those things running, and being read. Put it 10-second post report. I set it actually to max. I mean, I'd rather wait, for the BIOS to check everything, to do post properly on all hardwares before having the system really fully booted up, and ready to use. Right? Force BIOS option interrupt 19 capture. I always disable that. Native support, of course, you have to enable this, um, especially when you are booting up for the first time. Not sure really if there's a by this is actually by default, you know, so that all your drivers will be supported. You can always install your NVMe drivers after Windows has been installed. Anyway, you can always do that. You can also update your firmwares of your SSD NVMe drives. Right. Setup, I always put it on advanced mode, but initially when the first boot up of a new motherboard, it will always go to easy mode. Right. Boot sector, of course, it's a local user control. This is pretty much pre-configured when Windows actually formatted your hard drive. Next boot, I always do skip, so it always return to your Windows default boot up. Right. Boot option, since this is where my um, Windows 11 is actually installed, so just put your Windows Boot Manager there. Alright, so this tells you what kind of bootable drive I have. ASUS Flush utility, of course, you use this when you update your BIOS. I have this also in previous videos that I have. Again, thanks for watching. Thank you for watching, for my existing subscribers and for all the viewers. And yeah, please like and subscribe. Feel free to subscribe for more of my videos. So the ASUS Flush is actually at version 3. This is from the current version that I have. So yep, it's also reading there. So how to update your BIOS, you can also see it in another video, right? Enough of this one. So we leave the BIOS flash, and then we go here. BIOS image rollback support. Yep, of course, always enable that to make sure, to make sure that the previous version is actually, holds it, if ever something, went wrong, or something went wrong with your installation of BIOS from the current update. Alright. So publish H2 resources, disable secure erase. We don't usually do that, but yeah, we do that if we were going to have a full erase in the system. Flex key, reset, set animator setup. Nope, I just disable it, but you can actually do that if you want to, which is pretty cool. ASUS user profile, you can save it. Normally you can save it on a flash drive, so you can, whenever you reset your profile and you want to reuse the new profile, or you update your BIOS, you lose everything, right? Your profile will also be deleted, at least if you have a profile saved to your previous profile, which you already saved their BIOS. This is very, your thumb drive. This is very, very useful. So you will not go all of these, setup again. SPD information, give you the information of your DIMM. So obviously there's none on the first DIMMs. There are on the second DIMMs, as they are. We are on dual channel mode. Mem test, and you can try that if you feel like your memory that you installed are actually defective. You can actually go there and enable it and check it. ASUS my hotkey, but by the way, memtest 86 or memtest primarily actually takes time, so be willing to wait. ASUS my hotkey. Okay, you can enable this or activate from which toggle flash you want. Alright. Armory crate, I just put it enabled, so every time you reformat, or you install a new motherboard, just have it here automatically upon boot up of Windows for the first time. Right. My ASUS, you can have it downloaded as well or not as an option. To me, currently, I don't really consider it as a bloatware, but since I don't really use it, might as well, not install it to free up some space. All right. So here, lastly, is the exit tab. So you can load optimized defaults here if you want to see, if for the very first time. Actually, that's very advisable for you to do that, to load optimized defaults, so that all of your hardwares will be read, and they will all, the motherboard will switch everything, all settings to the mostly auto mode or auto detect mode, so it will be safer for you to do this the first time. All right. The first time you actually, first after the first build of your computer, or modifications of your computer, or if ever you're doing your overclocking, this is like a reset switch, for you to reload everything, and to check if your all hardwares are still are good and intact, and for you also to check if it's just setting from the BIOS that you've changed, um, that actually creating those errors or bugs, then it's always good to go back here and load the optimized defaults. But then again, after that, then you can tick back again. All right. Then save changes when you're done with all of these settings, or discard changes and exit if you just doing all the checks. Alright, and it will just go straight to your Windows. It will not reboot. This will reboot. and apply the settings that you've done. And the EFI, yeah, for USB drives, if you do have, um, some EFI that you would want to use, then this is the tab for you to use. All right, so that's everything. Everyone, thank you for listening and watching to this video. I hope you've learned something um, for, during the entire session of this ASUS ROG Strix Z790-F gaming Wi-Fi run through of BIOS on artificial intelligence mode. Alright, thanks everyone. Please like and subscribe. Have a good day. Bye bye.